And the biggest thing to me was the Jazz stuff afterwards, right? I mean, the play itself was a little difficult, because it was interesting. They had Bellinger in the infield. They had 5 infielders. They had him, Rice, and Jazz on the right side. So go figure. They hit it to the right side. We had 3 infielders and still couldn't make a play, right? The play was a little unconventional. It took a high bounce over Bellinger's glove, and Jazz kind of had to lunge forward to grab it. And, we can live with guys not making every single play. Like, that was not an easy play. But it's the comments, Andrew, after the game that have me concerned, because he's now asking reporters, like, hey, would the run have counted if I had thrown to first and then we went to second for the second out, like, of a double play? And then you couple that with his excuse about it being cold, and that's why he's not playing to the best of his ability. And this is within a week or two span. This is not a guy who's in a contract year, Andrew. This is not what you want to be seeing April 13th.
Yeah, a guy that claimed that he's good enough to go 50-50. I saw a video of him that was like, stay quiet until you see a better player than Jazz Chisholm. He stayed quiet the whole video, and they showed the best of the best in the video, right? So this is a guy with a lot of confidence, and like rightly so, because when he's on, he's like one of the most fun and exciting and one of the better players in the league. But yeah, he just has these mishaps. And as for the comments that he made after the game, it just feels like he almost needs to just like stop himself at times, because when he first started what he was talking about, like, he got it right. He was like, yeah, I was going to do that. I was going to do this, and it was going to be fine. And then he like just kept kind of raveling, and like he just let his mind wander, and he was kind of speaking out loud, and he just, said that stuff. And it's kind of like, that's not a good look, dude. And especially because, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but the play before, or a couple plays before that, there was a bunt that everybody crashed on, and Bednar ended up throwing home because Jazz didn't cover first base. So the Yankees, again, get no outs there. I think that was the run that tied the game. So then you have that. Now, I do think, to Jazz's credit, that would have been a pretty tough play to make. I mean, it looks easy, like he's just going to scoop it, tag, and go to first. Like, who knows what Yandy Diaz does? Does he just immediately run back to first, waste time, wait for that run to get across? So we don't know what actually happens if he does field that ball cleanly, but it seemed like a perfect opportunity to clean up the mistake he just made with the bunt and get into. I mean, that would have been an electrifying play. Dylan and I were watching that game together. We would have jumped off the couch at that play. Like, it just felt like it felt like we were down in the dumps, and we kind of got handed a gift, and we just didn't come through. And then, I'm upstairs doing whatever, and I see those comments come across my phone, and that was not fun either. So it's not what you want to see. He has these tendencies where he doesn't play well, and he has these mental lapses, but then when he's on, and he's one of the better players. So it's just frustrating being at the lower end of that right now.
Yeah, and that play, for sure, he had the opportunity to right the wrong of not covering first base. Now, would he have gotten, and I forget who bunted the ball, but in that position where you're talking about that play, I don't know if they would have gotten that out, just because it was not the easiest of throws to first for Bednar, but just the mental lapses, not being where you're supposed to be. We're seeing it with Lindor, with the Mets in certain spots. It's just some mental lapses here and there. Like, these are players that have been playing these positions for forever. Like, second base is his position. He played third base when he came here because they had Gleyber Torres. They let Gleyber Torres walk in free agency because they had Jazz Chisholm, and they moved him to second to his natural position. And he's asking reporters how double plays work, like, in certain scenarios. Baseball is a game in which you're thinking of the scenarios in your head, so that way when you get the ball, you know what you're doing, and you know what the result would be, right? You have to be thinking, okay, if I get the ball here, I'm tagging Diaz and I'm throwing to first. Or if it's more to my right, I'm going immediately to second. Like, you have to know where you're going with the ball if it's hit to you, right? And maybe he knew where he was going with it, but he didn't know what the result was going to be. He questioned it. So maybe he just has to hold his tongue. But again, that's concerning to me that's even a thought. I feel like that should be a given. Like, you should know, okay, if I throw to first and then they throw to second, run would it count or not, right? It just, from a guy who's going to be making big money next year with a big contract, whether it's with the Yankees or another team, I feel like for my return on investment, if I'm an owner, I want my second baseman to know how baseball works in certain situations, and I can count on you in big spots to get the ball and know where to go with it. So it was concerning for me. And again, that's the reason why this is the biggest loss of the game, because of just the optics of how this looks for Jazz, because we both agree that he's an awesome player. When he's on, he's on. He's an electrifying guy that can juice a lineup, but you just can't have these mental lapses on the field and then have a mental lapse in the locker room afterwards with the media, where they will keep that microphone recording until you stop moving your lips. They don't care what you say.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of what you're saying, who you're saying it to. And, especially the Yankees, if you're on the Yankees, everyone's going to figure out what you said. So it's one of those spots where you just have to, right, I think you're right, just kind of watch what you're saying and just sometimes don't admit the truth, keep it to yourself.
And in the age of social media, I'm not saying that this wasn't a bad quote. It obviously was, but everything gets, overplayed, overhyped, right? So you got to really be careful with what you're saying. And I think one thing that Jazz has said, I think it was last year, was that he's a better player when he plays at 70%. And I think he's playing a little too close to 100% right now. I think he's swinging too hard. I think he's trying a little too hard, trying to do too much, trying to do everything. Just simplify it a little bit, simplify that swing a little bit, play at 70%. And he's going to be a good player for us this year. I have no doubts about it, or no doubts just yet. But yeah, I was really excited about a Jazz Chisholm in a contract year, because if he has that edge, and like he could, not saying he's going to go 50-50, but he's a guy with enough power and enough speed that if you give him enough time and enough games, like he could get close to that number. So I'm hoping that now he kind of flips the switch a little bit, underdog mentality, and gets it going, because that's another guy. You mentioned Judge, and you mentioned Stanton, you mentioned Bellinger. Like, that's another guy that still really hasn't gotten going overall.